You got 5? I got 5.
Close enough.
Okay. We'll go ahead and call the Ellis County Commission meeting to order. I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Donna, please call the roll.
Commissioner Butch Schleier,
Present.
Chair Commissioner Dean Hazelhorst,
Present.
Commissioner Destin Rock.
Present.
You have a quorum present.
Thank you. Any changes to the order of business this evening? I believe one executive session. Everybody else good? Yes. Prior minutes, September 16th, 2019, October 1st, 2019, special meeting. Additions, corrections, I believe you all got everything sent to you.
Issues?
Just a couple corrections Phil had
Phil.
that look good.
Stand approved as presented. Donna? Need a motion for the consent agenda, items A through G.
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through G.
I'll second that.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business this evening. Mr. Bill Ring, would you please come forward? Give us an update on the accident that maybe happened on the Ellis Blacktop, and maybe, I know you've had calls about the Ellis Blacktop condition, and I've had numerous calls, so if you'd like to touch on that briefly, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. Bill Ring, Public Works Director. At approximately 1 a.m. Sunday morning, a vehicle traveling south on the Ellis Blacktop or 120th Avenue, just south of Munger Road, apparently, according to the details that we have, fell asleep and took out the guardrail made out of concrete on the east side of the bridge. It's Bridge 20 for the county records. The vehicle flipped over into the water. The driver was taken to the hospital and released with apparently no injuries, which is a good thing. I have called our bridge engineer, because the bridge engineer just went through all the bridges back, in the end of last year, and I sent them the same photos that I shared with the commission. We'll get together tomorrow and start to do some preliminary analysis. There's no structural issues right now, but we do have the concrete rail to be concerned with. I have called the sheriff's office. The report is in the review process already, so I'll have that to find out. I believe the driver is insured, so we will be making a claim either directly or through our K-Camp insurance carrier for what it's going to take to repair the bridge.
And the
Any
condition
questions?
of the Ellis Blacktop?
Okay.
The south
The
5
second,
mile.
okay, I just want to make sure that there was none of the commission had a question about that. Okay. We've talked in the past, the 5 miles, the south end of the Ellis Blacktop is in pretty bad condition. We've talked about basically 2 different ways to repair it. One would be paving it again, which would be probably a multi-million-dollar expense, which neither the county nor the Public Works Department feels would be a viable thing to do. And then the other choice we've talked about was possibly taking it back to rock, gravel type base like a lot of the county roads are now. Kurt and I were down there, I think Thursday afternoon. We spent a couple hours driving back and forth, and it is deteriorating rather badly. It's pushing out on the sides in areas. The problem with a road that old and that worn out is you can't just put patch on it anymore. I mean, to try to do an overlay, it probably won't adhere to it. You can't just go down and take hot mix and find an area where there's a hole the size of half of a basketball. If you put material in there, it'll last for a short time, but then it's going to come up. And then once winter gets here and we start getting the heaving and thawing and we start running snow plows, we're just going to tear it up even further. So I did reach out to one of the contractors that we use to get a ballpark. I didn't put an RFP out or anything like that till we discussed it. But just to get an idea on what their cost would be for a contractor to come in and to basically what we're going to call mill up the road, take 5 to 6 inches off and then put it back and mix it with rock. And that cost alone was $105,000. That's just based on, a quick overview of it, not, we might be able to save if we were to choose to do something like that. If we, actually, we would put out an RFP to get competitive bidding, but just to give you an idea of where we stand. And that's not a projected expense in this year's budget. We could look at the budget deeper to see where we may be able to, possibly move some money over if that's something you choose to do. And then we would also then have to calculate what our cost for time, material that we would be providing along with the contractor.
So that 105 is our material, is not including material.
No, I mean, rock and things like that might have to be added to to this. That's basically a labor material cost for a contractor. And again, it was a first blush look at it, not trying to get, specifics, an exact. It was basically, but they went and drove the 5 miles so they could see what we were up against. And I would hope that someone could maybe sharpen their pencil a little bit, but I don't know that 10, 15% maybe. So it still gets it in that close to $100,000 mark.
Is this where the Antonino Road intersects? Would that be all that mileage? That
Would be south of Antonino Road.
south that road
Mm-hmm.
to the county line.
To the county line where you've got
Where
that
it
kind
turns.
of turn into Ness and Rush right there. And at that point is where it all goes back to dirt and sand at that intersection. And the same thing occurs. You can there's a quick left that kind of a part of the Y that goes to what we call South County Line Road. That's paved for 60, 70 feet. And then the South County Line Road from that point for the next 3 miles is maintained by Rush County. Yeah, I don't know if you if we talked about that, about how we alternate the mileage with the surrounding counties.
Yeah.
We'll do 3, they'll do 3, they'll do 4, we'll do 4 type thing. We do that with all the 30 miles on each side of Ellis County.
I personally take that road a lot, and honestly, it's one of those where I kind of wonder why the heck we have a paved road that far out in the middle of nowhere that we have to take care of, in my opinion. But I definitely don't think multiple $million dollars are in our future to try and fix that problem. But it is in pretty much disarray. I mean, I've driven it a few times, even in the last few months, so.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
And just so happens the lady that was in the car accident on Friday night, her mother called me that morning and told me with her concerns of that road, and she would like to see something happen with all the potholes in that road before somebody gets hurt. And that night her daughter has a accident. Just so happens, I believe she was the homecoming queen at Ellis High School that night also. So.
Younger sister.
Huh?
Gary tells me it was the younger sister.
Oh, okay. It was her sister. Okay. But
Now, the accident was north
of that.
by a couple miles of that 5 miles we're talking about. That area, because I went down there Sunday morning to take daylight pictures, which you saw. That area is nice. I mean, and then we overlaid just south of the city, Ellis, from the city limits south. We laid a couple of miles there to smooth that out. But unfortunately, just trying to add material, that road base has anywhere between 12 and 18 inches on it now, because over the years, it's just, you keep putting more and more on it.
Well, I think there's a little bit of danger of the way that it turns into sand so quickly on a turn as well. I mean, for people that don't know that road, and or people just driving at night, it is relatively dangerous little area there. So maybe we get them slowed down if they're on Rock Road. And
Well, the speed limit, unless we can come up, we'll have to get an engineering report done, it'll stay 55. That's statutorily done.
yeah, what the speed limit is and what people drive is
Well,
probably
that
different
speed
things
study
out
we did
there.
on 230th shows that.
Yeah,
So when you're wide open down there where,
yeah, that was kind of a crazy speed study.
I think maybe, Bill, if you have time, kind of maybe just go out there and give it your overview and see what you think, especially where all the potholes are in that one stretch, north of there also, so maybe come
like I
back.
said, we can possibly lay some material. I mean, it would be,
I know.
again, we're coating it. It's, through the winter maybe, but we really should, I think, take a deeper look and see what, I mean, we know the one option, and that's off the table, and I agree. I mean, that's way too much. But we need to look at what other options are available, and unfortunately, there's not a lot. It's not like we've got an array of colors to choose from. We have very limited options.
I guess look it over and bring us another opinion back of what you see when you drive the whole road from Ellis all the way to the county line, if you would, please.
Okay, that would
Thank
be
you.
fine.
At some point, that road was connecting a lot more people than it is now, unfortunately.
It has a lot of
We-
traffic on it, though.
Yeah.
We pulled the traffic count, and KDOT just did it, I believe it was April of this year, and they do select areas, and then they put a line about, so it was right at the base of it, where Airport got to, Rush County, and it was 100, if I remember correctly, it was 138 vehicles per day, and then we went back the last 5 traffic counts. One was 136, one was 140, one was 137. So we're, I think, using any one of those numbers gives us a good indication of how little traffic actually goes on that road.
Definitely.
And all that's available on the KDOT website, so it's not.
All right, Bill. Thank you very much.
Anything else?
Not as of yet.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you.
I believe we don't have any new employees present this evening. If there is, raise your hand. You'll all look very familiar. We'll move on to the 2 famous people we have with us today representing the state of Kansas. One has about a 2-hour further drive than the other one does, so unfortunately, we're going to let the senator go first, and Barb, you have to take second seat today. So at this time, we'd like to have Senator Rick Billinger of the 40th District come up.
Good evening, and thank you all for the invitation. Glad to be here this evening. And I made a few notes on the way in. I had a meeting in Topeka today with the 911 Commission, and one of your employees was attending, and so I think we had a pretty productive meeting. Seemed like it anyway. Anyway, I guess I was going to give you a little update, I guess, of what's going on and what may be coming up. First off, if there's someone here that doesn't know, I'll just mention a few of the things that I am involved in. I am on the Ag and Natural Resource Committee, which involves agriculture, which is our #1 industry, and then oil and gas and water, which is also, right there at the top. I'm also vice chairman of the financial institutions and insurance, which also includes all the pensions and benefits. Been involved with CAPERS since I got there in 2011. Also the vice chair of Ways and Means, which is the budget. And I'm also on the interim committee. We met last week on the budget. We meet about every month or 2 through the summer. I also serve on 5 subcommittees, and I chair 3 of those. I'm also on the Building and Construction Committee, the 911 Commission, the Transportation Task Force, which we continue to push to try to get you some help on the bypass road, the feedlot road out there, and I'm hoping that we're getting closer to getting something done for you, but we continue to push on that. I'm also on the Disabilities Concern Commission Select Committee on Medicaid, which we meet the 22nd and 23rd of October. I'm on the Capers Oversight Committee, and that's about what keeps me busy. There's another one, I think, or two that I don't remember, but anyway. Some of the things that we were involved in this year, the first thing that happened this year when we got to Topeka was the governor decided she wanted to refinance Capers. And doing that would cost us about $7.1 billion. So the legislature quickly put that to bed, but I'm sure it'll come up again this year. So just give you a heads up. I know you have a lot of employees that are involved in Capers. We did have a bill that we had on Capers last year to make the missed payment that we had promised to do 2 years earlier. And when we made that payment, it was the first time in 25 years that we made the actual required contribution. First time in 25 years. So I'm pretty proud to be part of that. Another thing that happened, there was a large tax increase last year. Folks that in prior years were able to deduct their mortgages, their charitable contributions, and their medical expenses are no longer able to do that because of the changes at the federal level. At the federal level, when they changed the standard deduction from 12 to 24, all those folks in Kansas between 12 and 24 that were itemizing are no longer able to itemize. So that was a large increase, and our revenues are showing it. The individual income tax and corporate income tax are both up. Another thing that we tried to do last year was the internet sales tax. And what we were trying to do is level the playing field, but it takes legislation in order to do this. And we were going to use the additional income from the internet sales tax to reduce the sales tax on food. We passed 2 bills. The governor's vetoed both of them, so I'm sure we'll probably try to get that done again this year because she's trying to do it with executive authority, and the Attorney General has told her that you can't do that. So we'll see what happens. Another thing that's very concerning that I've been involved in, I just got off of a tour on mental health. We traveled around several stops in the state, and we also stopped here in Hayes. And they're wanting to move the 12 beds for juveniles from Hayes to Wichita. And I've been told that some of those kids might also end up in Kansas City. And I tell you, I'm pushing really hard because they're telling us we get different stories different times. So I'm not sure that it's black and white, but I want to make sure it's not an interpretation. They've told me they will give me a copy of a letter from CMS that says that we can't commingle these beds here in Hayes. Until I see that letter, I'm going to continue to push. I think it's a tragedy if some young person from Cheyenne County or Finney County or any place out west here would happen to come and need that facility and get here and say, oh, you got another 2 hours or so to Wichita. Plus, the parents' involvement in the treatment, having someone from that far away to try to travel to Wichita to be part of that is going to be a burden financially. And so we'll continue to try to find out and get to the bottom of it. We were also told, well, it had something to do with the ceiling there, so it's just every time we push a little, then we get kind of a different answer. So we will continue to check on that. Another thing that's very concerning is, our revenues are up. I mentioned that earlier. But even with the revenues up, we still took over $200 million from KDOT. Call it the bank of KDOT, but doesn't matter. We're still transferring over $200 million from KDOT. So we can have an ending balance of over $1 billion. Doesn't make any sense. But that's what's going on. We're deficit spending. We spent more every day than we have coming in. How long can you do that? It's going to catch up with us. We didn't pay our PMIB loan off. We could have. There's plenty of money there, over $1 billion in July ending balance. So these are challenges. One of the other things that was discussed this last week, one of the committees met, and there's a lot of talk about a constitutional amendment on the abortion ruling from the Kansas Supreme Court that ruled that was in our Constitution. I think there'll be a big push to try to bring that to the voters and find out if people think abortion rights should be part of the Constitution. That will come up. Our foster care system is still a mess. We're making it tougher for foster families to continue to be foster families. When we have people that have been foster families for 20 years and then we put up new hurdles for them, it just doesn't make sense. Two other things that are really concerning. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Reading Roadmap program. I don't know if they have that at the Hayes School here or if you're familiar with it, but it's a really good reading program for, I think it's pre-kindergarten and then like first, second, third grade. They started the program last year in St. Francis. It's the first time I've been familiar with it. It's the first one in my district. So I know there isn't one in Hayes because that's the first one in my district. And they're trying to interpret the rules, and they're saying that we can't fund this the way we've been funding it. And also the JAG-K program, which I do know you have here at the high school. It's a new program here. I think they've had it for last year, and I think this is the second year on it. But we've been using TANF dollars to fund several programs like this. And some of the pre-kindergarten programs, Tiny K and so forth. But these two in particular have been targeted by the governor, and they're not wanting to fund them next year. And it's really puzzling, and it'll be another one of them that I think we're going to have to get in the middle of because they're very important programs. The JAG-K program keeps high school students in high school, and they graduate. I mean, it's something that we need to pursue and continue. It's a really, really good program. And what I've seen of the Reading Roadmap, the same thing. I know that Tiny K and some of these pre-kindergarten programs, for every dollar we put in, we get $11 back. What an investment. Last week, I was in Topeka for an interim meeting, and it was our bank Financial Institutions Committee. And one of the things that was talked about, which has come up, is the privilege fee that the banks pay that the savings and loans do not pay. And you talk about a can of worms. I tell you, we had a packed house down there. So that's another thing that's going on. On the insurance side, I think we're meeting at the end of October again, and there's the pharmaceutical companies sell to the pharmacists. There's a middle guy in there, and that's come up, and that's going to be another one that's going to be kind of a hot potato that it's going to take some time to sort out. Another issue that I guess you all have heard about or read about is the e-cigarettes. You know, I'm sure we're going to be attempting to figure out what to do with the e-cigarettes. You know, I think we've had 2 deaths in Kansas so far, and you know, it just looks like a real challenge on that side of it.
Senator, so will vaping fall under that too then? Or not?
Yes,
Yeah, will that all fall under the same?
all the same. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
I think I'll just stop there and see if you have any particular questions. And
Butch?
No, I have no questions at this time.
Dustin?
Just a couple of them. As you might know, Senator Billinger, we're working on a sales tax initiative here in Ellis County, 2 quarter-cent options that'll go to vote early next year. And as far as, you know, what you talked about with the internet sales tax and leveling the playing field, you know, I really like the idea of that. I mean, as someone who competes against online companies with a brick and mortar store all the time, always we're just at least looking for a level playing field. But at the same time, I love the idea of what you guys came with in terms of not just increasing taxes and taking the windfall, but finding somewhere else to cut. And our food sales tax, I think, has to be the thing that goes. I mean, the problem I have with a sales tax in general is it becomes kind of regressive when you talk about people who may not be able to afford much, paying for milk and groceries for their kids and having to pay a sales tax on that, you know, versus luxury items. So I appreciate your guys' work on that, and I don't know why anybody would be opposed to such a thing. It seems like both sides of the aisle are in agreement that this needs to go. I guess it's just a matter of figuring out that internet sales tax and how you do it without, you know, wrecking our budget in the process. But you know, I don't. Is that the case? Is that why you're getting veto issues?
you know, I'm not really sure why it was vetoed, other than it was all part of a tax package, and I think, you know, if we try that individually, maybe it'll go. You know, it's hard to say, but part of the 40th district that I represent includes 7 counties on the border with Nebraska and Colorado. They pay 0 on food sales in Nebraska and Colorado. So makes it
We're
pretty
trying
tough
to
for them
attract
small
those people
little
to
grocery
Hays.
stores. You know, makes
Hays
it
and
pretty
Ellis
tough for
County.
them to compete.
Awesome. Well, appreciate your work on that, and it's definitely something that's near and dear to us, and I think probably to my other commissioners as we talk about a sales tax and discussing that with our constituents and whether or not they're willing to take that on. It could be something that helps us maybe stomach it a little bit better in Ellis County. So also, like what you said, you know, we're trying to get those people in those the northern part of the state to make a decision to come to Ellis County to shop and be a regional center, and I think that can be a detriment to us, and obviously, as you discussed, it is, even to the little grocery stores that might try to establish up there. So, but other than that, I appreciate everything you're doing.
Well, thank you again. Appreciate the opportunity to kind of give you an update on some of the things that are happening in Topeka.
Phil, do you have any questions for him? No? Okay. Just thought I'd ask. Thank you. Our next guest this evening is our state representative, Barbara K. Wassinger, 111th District.
It's nice to be back where
Did you want to sit
I
up
used
here?
to
I
be.
can
No,
move.
what? No, I'd be more than happy to. Just as a reminder, I'll tell you which committees I'm on: taxation, higher education budget, financial institutions and pensions. It's the House side of what the senator is on. Also on joint administrative rules and regulations, which we look at barbering to wildlife to tourism to physical therapists to dentists. So it's I have a meeting for that tomorrow. So we go through all of that. I agree with the senator. We're just spending too much, and it's one of the things that I'm trying to do is to see where we can stop some of that deficit spending. But I also feel like my responsibility, as well as the senator and other Western rural Kansas legislators, feel like we have to stand up for rural Kansas. A lot of the money goes out to other areas, and one of the reasons I got that tour together with legislators and Congressman Marshall and Department of Commerce Secretary Toland, as well as Assistant Secretary of Transportation Lindsay Douglas, came out to look at the bypass. And I've been trying very hard to stress how important it is for the regional freight area that this is, that we need to have help with that. So I see my job as multi-leveled, trying to work on making sure the rural areas aren't left behind, because we feed everyone out there. I also was part of the group that was trying to get the internet sales tax issue. Everyone's already taxed. There's just a segment that it was a voluntary payment of this internet sales tax. And so what we were trying to do was make sure that we had everyone pay those taxes. Now, people like Amazon and large companies were already voluntarily giving the state of Kansas the tax dollars from it. But we wanted to make sure, like the senator said, a level playing field. And one of the things that the governor ran on was to lower the food sales tax. So in that tax package, we made sure we added that all that funding that we haven't gotten already, those taxes, if we went ahead and passed that, would go directly to start lowering the food sales tax, which we thought was a good start. We weren't taking money away from the state. We weren't spending money. We were taking newfound money and putting it where it should be. And unfortunately, the governor did not see that was a really good idea. So that's a little bit of a difficult to understand that. But we did have people out here to look at the bypass, and we'll continue to work on that, as Senator Billinger said, that he's trying to make sure people are aware that we've got to get this done, because this is an important area. So let's see. I also think we'll be doing looking back on the APRN bill, which is the nurse practitioners being able to practice in rural areas without having to have a physician that they have to pay. Right now, APRNs pay physicians in order to practice at a clinic or even in a doctor's office. They have to have a physician over them. One of the things that they're wanting to do in order to get more health care services out in rural Kansas is to be able to practice on their own. And they know what they say they know what their scope of practice is. So that's one of the things that I know that will come up. Let's see, the food sales tax. We do need to be concerned about them taking mental health services from our children out here in western Kansas. And so that's another item that we're working on. I think the senator really gave you quite a rundown, so I just would be saying again what we're going to be talking about is
He's been there just a couple more years than you've been
just
there,
a
Barb.
few, just
So,
a few. But it's been an exciting first year. My joke is it's been a long time since I've been a freshman, but now I am again. So it's been an honor to be there, and I consider it a large duty to take care of Ellis County and keep my voice strong for all of you. So we are always easy to get a hold of. You all have my contact information and cell phone, so I expect to hear from you when you think I need to know something. So are there any other questions?
I just appreciate the job that both of you are doing, and I know Senator Billinger covered it also, but that Robin from KDOT, that just has to end.
It really does. Well, we did that here where we said we've just got to stop taking from Road and Bridge, which has been done for years, and it's wrong, and we have to stop it.
I mean, if we don't, our roads are going to be like they might be to a state to the south of us somewhere.
Yep.
And, we have some of the best roads in Kansas ever. We had a great system, and, that just has to end, that chopping it, every year. And it's been going on, as Senator Billinger knows, for a long time.
Well, I think you're preaching to the choir with these two people here. We don't want that
keep
to
up
be
the good
going
work.
on anymore. So I think Medicaid expansion will be coming up, and that's going to be another big thing. School finance will continue. I will continue to fight for accountability from the Kansas Association of School Boards, because I think that they're not putting it towards the kids or the teachers, which is where the money should be going. And so I'll continue to voice my concerns about that. So.
Good, appreciate everything you're doing. Butch? Any questions?
Barbara, you did state that you believe the state is spending too much. What should the state cut?
I don't get into that detail, but appropriations, when you start to look at it, there are so many different things that are being spent, money's being spent on that we're not looking at. And one of the best things that I think that the legislature did was to pass accountability for economic development programs, because there's a lot of money that's not being found that was supposed to go towards economic development within the state. So I think we just need to get into more oversight, to ask more questions, and find out exactly what's going on with every dollar. And it's hard. It's a huge budget. But we have so little of the budget that we control, and that's the other problem, because about 65% of the budget goes to higher education as well as K through 12, and then the other part, a large chunk, goes to mental health that we spend money on. So it's about 15% of the budget that we have any kind of control over at this point. So I think the accountability measures will also help to be able to, say, cut back some of the departments.
Okay.
Just any questions?
No, just a few comments. I'm pretty excited as a freshman of some of your committee assignments. It's some pretty good ones, like taxation and higher ed, especially when you talk about higher education. I think that's great for Fort Hays State to have you and Ken there to be able to at least advocate for the job they're doing over there. The Northwest Business Corridor, getting all those together on it, can't tell you how much we appreciate that. It has done a lot just to get people to understand what we're working on there. It's hard to understand it unless you're taken and shown.
I've seen it, yeah. See how dangerous it is.
The one thing that when you talk about the APRN and some of that deregulation of the medical industry, I actually sat in on a healthcare summit, and one of the issues that the telemedicine guys had was their regulation of their reporting. And basically, they have a video of their interaction with their patient, and they just want that to be the record, to be kept on file, instead of having to type a report after every patient to speed up their availability for care. And so yeah, keep digging into deregulating that to help rural western Kansas. I think it'll do wonders. And as Hayes Med Center, all the wonderful facilities and providers that we have there, as they can continue to help remotely with telemedicine, I think that we can really just upgrade the health of all western Kansas with stuff like that.
We're very fortunate to have Hayes Med, and
Very.
so we have to fight for that, as well as Fort Hayes, giving them a big shout out because they were one of only 2 institutions that did not raise their tuition, along with getting more funding. And it says a lot for us out here at Fort Hayes State University, so I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, I think the Board of Regents sees the success and they see what's going on at Fort Hayes, and they wish other colleges could figure out a way to replicate that.
Yes,
so.
I think a lot of them would like to.
Yeah. So I don't know what we have out here, but it's definitely good leadership.
It's good roads from the road and bridge people. It's healthcare from our EMS, health department, so.
As far as the KDOT stuff goes, as far as I just think of infrastructure spending as a great long-term financial impact, and yeah, anytime we start stealing from that too much, I believe a couple years ago we were sitting at the number 2 road infrastructure of states in the entire nation, and so we had a good start there, but it's amazing how quick that can slip away if you're not. And getting efficient with that spending is hugely important. You see other states that do a lot better job per dollar at taking care of road infrastructure. We got to make sure we continue to fund them, but also hold them accountable to what they're getting. So.
Well, we're lucky we have someone like Senator Billinger, who's been a really good watchdog and has sounded the alarm many years. So.
Awesome.
We're grateful for his service.
And thanks for coming.
All right.
Thank you
Thanks
both
for
for
having
coming.
us.
You're more than welcome to stay. We have a lot of exciting things, as Barb knows, so. But I also know, Senator, you have a 2-hour and 15-minute drive, and Barb has a 7-minute or about a 5-minute drive, so. But you both are welcome to stay, but if not, we appreciate you being here this evening. Thank you both. Yeah. Moving on, reclassification of positions in the Register of Deeds office. Becky Herzog.
Good evening, Commissioners. Rebecca Herzog, Register of Deeds office. It's in regards to reclassification of the deputy position and the current vacant clerk position. I had brought this up a couple years ago at the budget meeting, that I would like to do that and kind of make them even, the 2 employees, because when one's gone, the other one does her job plus the other's job, and vice versa. So I'd like to reclassify them as administrative assistants. I know I am not able to have the wage be as close as I would like right now, but maybe later on in a year or 2, maybe they can be a little bit closer in wages.
Dustin, comment?
No, just kind of reading over the financial impact. It looks like on here, Becky, this is you're hoping this will allow you some flexibility in hiring, possibly a little higher wage on bringing people on.
Yes.
And right now it's a kind of an opportune time to make this change because, the potential of losing employees because of our pay structure and stuff like that has affected you.
Correct.
Okay. I think as with anything, when we hire, we're at a big risk because of how much we pay in health insurance. But that's okay. We also that's part of the reason people want to work in this county is how good the health insurance coverage is. So you know, I'm okay with this. I think it gets some cross-training going on in that office and allows her a little more flexibility to ask of her employees to do things when others aren't around.
Yeah, and she has a good point. I mean, if you have somebody cross-trained there, it definitely makes the department more efficient also. And in the past, you've done a great job with that Becky, and also
Thank you.
helping us with extra funding. Butch, any comment?
Becky, you state here that your revenue is already $20,000 more than what you've budgeted for 2020.
Yes.
What accounts for that increase?
The recording fees?
Okay, are they increased? You're just doing
Yes,
more work?
they have. We have been very busy.
So we can assume that's going to be the case. They will keep increasing?
I hope so.
Okay.
Homes have been selling very good. And then the oil, we've been getting a lot of oil. It's been picking up there too, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Want to make a motion?
Yeah, I think also the great thing about this move is that we're at less risk when we lose an employee on the cross-training, and that seems to be probably your biggest worry on this, is you lose a key employee and then get swamped with things and not able to take care of them. So as with anything across the whole county, I think this is the type of thing we need to be looking at, is allowing more flexibility in hiring and cross-training among staff, so we're not in a pickle when people retire and when people leave for whatever reason. So I'm in favor of it, so I'll make a motion. I move that the commission reclassify the Deputy Register of Deeds position, Department 20, position DROP Slot 1, currently occupied by Pam Faunestill, to Administrative Assistant, Department 20, position ADAS Slot 1. Reclassify the currently vacant Clerk Register of Deeds position, Department 20, position CROD Slot 1, to Administrative Assistant, Department 20, position ADAS Slot 2, and delete the position of Deputy Register of Deeds and Clerk Register of Deeds from the classification plan, effective October 6, 2019.
And I'll second that motion.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion, commissioners? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Becky.
Thank you.
Next item, sale of spray truck. Gary Haas, Weed Control Supervisor.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Gary Haas. I'm the Weed Control Supervisor for the Noxious Weed Department. Here tonight, as you know, we had replaced a spray truck this spring. We had built it through the winter, and we have a 24-year-old Ford F800 that's been sitting there this summer we haven't used. Osborne County has expressed interest in purchasing it, made an offer of $7,500. I've kind of, through Purple Wave, through auction time, through truck paper, I've kind of checked on prices, talked with Bruckner's. They thought it was a fair offer, and I'd like to request you approve in the sale to Osborne County.
Any discussion?
No, I guess if Osborne County can use it and we can't, we need to do something with the truck.
Yeah, they need to use it for a second truck, and
And I kind of looked up too, Gary. I think that's a very reasonable offer. I think you're.
yeah, I mean, there's some a lot lower. Typically what I've talked with other weed departments too, big share of them, $2,500, $3,000. I mean, we did take really good care of the truck, and he sees that, and so.
How many miles does it have on it, approximately?
130,000, but that's at 12 miles an hour, so it's a lot of hours.
Yeah. How's the new truck treating you
Really
guys?
good, really good.
Great.
We didn't, we kind of, at first, we had that one sitting there in case we had any glitches, but it worked out really well, and it's been, with the injection units on it, we were able to use it for a lot more things.
Great.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the sale of a 1995 Ford F800 spray truck to Osborne County Noxious Weed Department for $7,500.
I second that.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion, commissioners? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Next item on the agenda is floodplain mapping update. Environmental Planning Supervisor Mason Reuter.
Good evening, Commissioners. Mason Reuter, Environmental Planning Supervisor. I wanted to give you and the public a quick update on the floodplain mapping that we're going through right now. FEMA and the Kansas Department of Agriculture Division of Water Resources started a project a few years ago on updating our paper maps that are currently from 1986 for the floodplain. This map is done through LIDAR and other various engineering practices that they're using. It's supposed to be a lot more accurate and completely reduce our paper inventory to all digital, which will make the process faster and more accurate for all the people in Ellis County. So currently, they're at the point in the process where they're getting ready to open public comments for the map. So they're compiling, they as in FEMA and Kansas Department of Agriculture, are compiling a list of the potentially impacted properties. And once they have that list, they're going to send it to us. And I'm working with the City of Hayes, Ellis, and Victoria to work on a plan to send the notifications out to these people. There'll be a link on the notification that we send out that they can click on and add their comments. If they do not want to do the link, there will be an open house Wednesday, November 6th at Sternberg here in Hayes. It'll be from 2 to 7. They'll have engineers on staff. KDA will have staff there. FEMA will have staff there as well to go over what it means if their property will be in the floodplain now, how it will affect their flood insurance, and allow them to make comments on the draft map as well. If they don't want to do it at home, there will be computers set up there as well. Just a quick little update for that. There will be a cost for this. The cost is essentially just sending the notification out. It's one of the things we're working with the other communities, see if we can get a bulk rate going if we all send it out, since we all have to do it anyway. Do you have any questions over the mapping update?
No, I don't.
Sounds like you're going to bring us some more updates, so.
Yeah.
Is what you're sending out, Mason, what the homeowner's new flood classification, or is it just that, hey, these are changed, you need to look them up type of paperwork?
What it's going to be is saying after they've done their first initial draft, their property may have a zone A or a high risk flood zone running through it, so it could potentially change how if there's a structure there currently and they have a federally backed mortgage, they might have to get flood insurance through FEMA. Or if they're planning on doing a structure there and there's a new floodplain running through it, it could change how they put a structure up. If they need to see if they can apply for a letter of map amendment, which would be taking them out of the floodplain, or if they need to get something saying they need to build a pad and build it out of the floodplain, it'll give them notification saying, hey, there could be a major change coming your way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Thanks, Mason.
None for me.
Hey, thanks, Mason.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update. Next item, selection of voting delegate and alternate delegate for K-Work annual meeting. County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes. I think we could, for all practical purposes, combine the next two items because they're essentially the same for our two different insurance pools. First, because we received it in the mail first, is K-Work, our workers' comp coverage. They are asking that you designate a voting delegate and an alternate. In addition, K-Work does have elections this year, and they are submitting, interests. The folks who are currently there are all seeking re-election. You can choose to nominate them. You can choose to nominate other folks if you would like. Then moving on to K-Camp, our liability and property coverage. They're also asking for a voting delegate and an alternate delegate. Their elections we've previously taken up. You renominated the sheriff, Ed Harbin, to get reelected to their board. Basically, how we've done this in the past, there's no magic to it, but it's sort of like the chair will take one and the vice chair the other and flip on the alternates, and so just need a couple names.
I'd like to do K-Work again, Commissioners, just because I've nominated Ed. This will be his final time, so I'd like to do K-Works, if that's okay with you guys. I mean, K-Camp, I'm sorry. It says it right in our deal. I even have my notes that says Ed, see?
So are the voting on both of these around the same time at KAC then?
Yeah, so how this happens, yeah, that's right, because two of you haven't been to KAC before. So, yeah, on, I believe it's going to be Tuesday night this year, at the sort of the end of the day around 4:35, there's a joint meeting of K-Camp and K-Work, and there's usually some little finger foods, and so you go get snacks, sit down, and then one of them will go through their agenda, followed by the other one going through their agenda. The main thing is to pick up your voting credentials early before the meeting, so
Get there like
have
that
a
day
vote.
when you register.
Yeah. No, I'm okay with that with you guys if you would like to take that, Butch, as far as the K-Work.
K-Work, you want to do
Yep, I'll
K-Work?
do
Do K-Work and you do K-Camp, and
You'll be the alternate for K-Works, correct?
I will be the alternate for K-Works, and
And I'll do K-Camp, and
you want to be the alternate for K-Camp? Or do you want me to be the alternate for both? I could be the alternate for both in
Yeah,
case either you weren't
sure,
going or
let's do
sick.
it.
Yeah, let's,
We don't need a motion, so that's great.
Okay, yeah, sounds good to me.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving on.
So then the next item is a revision to section 8.7 of the personnel policy. This was discussed with commissioners at your work session on October 1st. And it's basically to just strike out the language that refers to 7.5% and replace that with an amount to be determined annually as the employee's share. Be happy to answer questions.
I think the changes you made were very appropriate, and I think it's what we discussed, and
Looks like what we discussed.
sounds good to me.
I move the commission approve revised personnel policy language as presented.
I'll
Second.
second the motion.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, commissioners? No? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0.
So moving on to the county administrator report. First item, we, like all Ellis County residents and businesses, are members of the cooperative local electric and gas utility, Midwest Energy, and they have mailed us a stack of ballots. So traditionally how this has been handled is the chair gets to vote for whomever he wants on those ballots, he or she wants. But if you all have a different system that you'd like to implement, I'm sure the chair would be happy to.
I'm all about that, all about change.
Eat your heart out, Dean. You'll know better than I will on that stuff.
And actually going through them, gentlemen, I know none of the above.
Usually the case.
So we do have someone from Midwest Energy here that could probably tell us who all these people are, but I can't. Neil, do you know all these people by chance? I'll read them off. Lon Fram.
Yeah, I know Long.
Oh, do you? Yeah, he's from out west. Okay, yep, Colby. Bert Stramel. Keith Miller, he's been on for a long time. I don't know him, but I know he's been here a long time. And then Lance Munyon, probably. So you're supposed to vote for one. Lon has been in, I know, for a while just because I know the name, and so is Keith. Them are the two that have been in for a while. What do you guys think?
Whatever you want to do, Dean.
Do your research, Dean, and vote on a good one.
I know they, like I say, I know Lon's been here a long time, and so has Keith, but I've never personally met either one.
I know
that-
of the Froms.
I know that's who I voted for last year, so. Okay. I will take care of that in a little bit, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, next item. I thought I would just give you some updates on different projects. The LEC elevator project work has begun. We have a progress meeting this Wednesday. The same story on the EFIS, the exterior stucco work has begun. Progress meeting on Wednesday. The courthouse restrooms bids have been posted. We have a pre-bid conference coming up on October 23rd. The Northwest Business Corridor, I had a meeting with the City of Hayes and KDOT this morning. I have a meeting with our design engineer on Wednesday. The comprehensive plan, planning staff has been informed that we have a March timeframe for completion on that. The parking lot out here, I have received an estimate for a scaled back version of a parking reconfiguration, so we'll do a little bit more work on that and then bring it to the commission for consideration. Replacement of the revolving doors here at 718 Main. We are waiting on the glass contractor to get that scheduled. Awnings at 601 Main. Awning singular, I should say, for that door on the north side. We do have a quote and was able to view a picture today of what those will look like. The first set of pictures looked pretty tacky, so we have a better looking awning for that. New project, we need some work on the heating system here at 718. I've talked to a couple of different potential vendors, contractors, and we'll be bringing something back to the commission soon, but Greg continues to report that we've got challenge after challenge with our heating and cooling systems here in this building, so we're going to have to move that up a little more quickly than I thought we would. And last but not least, our sales tax project. We've got some materials drafted on that and have begun setting up meetings to go over that. Those are my brief project updates, and I would also like for our county clerk election officer to give you a brief update on the upcoming November election.
Are you okay if I stay seated?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Just want to let everybody know that we did receive our new election equipment. It's very exciting in our office. We've gone through some trainings. We're going to go through some more trainings. But I think we're well pleased with what we have. So we're anxious to get going with it and start using it. Election is November the 5th for city school, improvement districts, constitutional amendment, census questions on there. So, the offices are listed on the website. So I encourage everyone to go out on our website, and that's at lsco.net. A lot of information there. Advanced voting is going to start on the 21st on a Monday, and ends noon on November the 4th, the day before at noon. And advanced voting is going on in our office at 718 Main, the county clerk's office. And voter registration books will close at the end of business on October 15th. Do you have any questions?
No, none from me, Donna.
Okay, so if you want to find out if you're registered to vote, give our office a call at 628-9410. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I had this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have none. County Commission reports. Butch?
I have no report.
Dustin?
The only report I have, I attended the KLPG conference and voted for the county in the conference. Some really good information. They did the speakers were surprisingly good, and Phil actually told me, he goes, this isn't going to be one where you're going to be nodding off so much every couple minutes. So good. It was a really good meeting. I really appreciate what they put together for us, and some good discussion of the problems other counties are having in western Kansas, and maybe a little bit of discussion because
it seemed like every piece of paperwork they handed us looked really, really good for Ellis County and really, really bad for every other person in KLPG. So with that being said, Phil and I had a little discussion about our need to be as helpful as possible to counties around us and help them thrive, so we continue to do as well as we have and in whatever capacity we can with our limited funding resource here. So that was a good meeting. And then I did have a meeting with Aaron Gillespie this morning, CEO of Next Tech, about some of their future projects in Ellis County and what they're trying to implement, which was really exciting. So I don't know enough about it to speak to the important parts of what they're doing, but I do know that some stuff is rolling out 2020 with them, and it sounds like he's going to get us all the information we need to know what their commitments are in Ellis County, besides just the large workforce that they bring. So that's all from me.
Great. Only thing I'm going to report on, RPM Speedway had their fall nationals this weekend. Friday night was a little damp. So maybe it's muddy to be the exact words. It started out on Thursday, but for people that's never been or say that doesn't bring a lot of money to Ellis County, needs to come see it. We had, I think the final count was around 258 cars, largest one ever in the 11 years this has been going on. And a lot of thanks goes out to Glenn Unrein and Wade Porter. They worked their tail off all week long, and Thursday night especially, and rain on Friday, and they were still out there. And Saturday, the show started at 2 o'clock, and it was nonstop. We finished at 1:45, I believe. Might be a few people upset in the community. Might have been a little noise, but you know what? That's how it is. It went very, very well. Like I say, record attendance, most vehicles I've ever seen. I got to be an Uber driver on Friday night. I shuffle people from that speedway to our motels and many other Uber drivers. It seemed like it went on forever. And most of them I hauled were from Canada, Saskatchewan. And they're all coming back again next year. This is their 4th year of attending. And every year they keep bringing more cars. This year they brought 6. They said next year they're hoping to bring 10 next year. And I can tell you, Texas cars, Iowa cars, Colorado cars, I mean, just all around. I don't know how many states is represented. They'll have that. It's probably done by now, but it was, I would guess, 15 to 18 states represented again. And I can tell you the motels and restaurant, the queue on Friday was busy all day long because we were shuffling people. And it was a great deal for Ellis County. Great deal. A really special thanks goes out to Midwest Energy. I made a few phone calls, and I didn't get very far when I was working on this. A gentleman sitting in the crowd here made a phone call for me, and in turn that individual called me, and I will tell you the wheels got to moving. Thank you, Neil, for all your help. And once the wheels were turning, I can tell you Midwest Energy went over and above, taking care of setting. I know 16 poles were needed replaced. They got the speedway done, the pit area done. 2 days' time it was done once we gave them the green light. I think they brought out 3 crews, maybe Neil even knows. I think there was 3 full crews out there. And I mean, it was unbelievable. So thank you very much to them. Without them, this would have never, ever happened. Glenn and Gary Hazelhorst and their crews went out and built a new concession stand, built a new observatory tower, built a new way station building. Again, did a great, great job. They knocked all that out in about 8 days. And I mean, it's finished. It turned out great. Did a great job too. So special thanks to them and just everybody that helped out there. It was a lot of late nights, I know, and Saturday night was really late, but it turned out very well, and I think all the people were very happy. Sheriff's Department came out for one little incident, but that was 2 out-of-staters that had been feuding. We found out for the entire year of the racing circuit, so nothing to do with Ellis County. It's a problem they failed to leave, maybe back in another adjoining state. And when it came down to the finals here, the Sheriff's Department came out and settled that deal and sent them both back to their respectable states, and all was good. So special thanks to them also. EMS, Carrie, thank you for your guys being out there. Darren Myers had a crew out there also. Special thanks to them. But it was a great deal for Ellis County. I mean, we don't have a real idea how many dollars that brought into the county, but I can tell you Thursday, Friday, Saturday, their semis, car haulers, et cetera, was filling fuel at many of the restaurants in town, and it was just a great deal. So thank you to all of them. That's all I have with that. One executive session, correct, still? Mr. Butch Schleier is going to let us know.
Yep, I move the Board of County Commissioners recess to executive session for a non-elected personnel matter regarding a performance evaluation for 15 minutes. And those persons in attendance would be Carrie McHugh and Administrator Phil Smith-Haynes.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion carries 3-0. Thank you all for coming this evening, too. Okay. Ready, Mike? No action, and we will adjourn at 6:23. All the commissioners, you have this to sign yet?
Oh, yeah, we got to write
Oh,
on
wait a
that.
minute. I think I missed a spot too.